This is the gaming and location-based entertainment track. That's all we're doing here today, which is fantastic, and I get to be the chair for that, which is even more fantastic because I really love VR gaming and entertainment. It's a great honor to be here and introduce the panelists today. The afternoon is full. We have, I think, maybe 6 different presentations throughout the rest of the afternoon, so we would love to have you stay for those. Leave and come back, take breaks. We have had some sessions that are incredibly full, so if that starts happening and filling up as people come back from lunch, just remember, keep your masks on and wash your hands frequently today, okay? So use your hand sanitizer and wash your hands. But you all are vaccinated and can sit next to each other. For this particular panel, I want to do something a little different. We have a moderator, and so I'll introduce them in just a minute. But I wanted to tell you guys a quick little story, which is part of the reason I started 3 minutes early. So I grew up in the Appalachian Mountains, and my grandmother actually, she would tell me stories about when she was young. And so my family really didn't even get electricity until like the 60s, 1960s and 70s. And so a lot of the experiences I've had are very, very different than some of the things that people who've grown up maybe in Silicon Valley have had, because I wasn't even I wasn't even aware VR existed until 2017. And so this is all I do now, but you know, we always have these different perspectives of people who come to the industry different ways, or maybe have different reasons or ways that they use the technology, which is part of the reason we're here, to create ways for them to do that. But I was thinking before this panel about the things they're going to discuss, and the actual title is XR and the Fan Experience, How Brands Can Apply a Proactive and Scaled XR Game Plan to Drive Deeper Engagement. And my grandmother told me when she was young, because it was the mountains, they didn't have stores. We didn't really have much of that when I was growing up, but it was even more so when she was young. So they had supply wagons or stores, portable stores, mobile stores that would come up through the mountain roads, and they would travel along the mountain roads and sell people their goods. So if you needed like a pot or an article of clothing or cloth that you can make your own clothes, then those things would be on these portable stores. And so I remember her telling me one time, they knew these were coming because they would keep their pots and things on the outsides of these mountain roads, so they would jingle, so it would make a lot of noise and let people know they're coming. And I was thinking about how the things you're doing with branding and how we attract people, you know, we've done that for a long time, but we have new creative ways to do that with the tools that you have and the creativity and the innovation technology we have now. We still have the same concept and idea of letting people know what's available, but it's changing, and we have wonderful ways we can do that that are more spectacular than we ever imagined before, like having a dragon in a stadium. So I just want to say I'm really grateful that you're here today. Diana is going to moderate this panel, and they have 55 minutes. You guys will have about 10 minutes before that ends to ask questions, and if you guys will give them a round of applause, we're glad you're here to attend.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's really nice to see everybody in person and back at AWE. I'd like to welcome you to our panel on XR and the fan engagement. I'm really excited to be here today because we've got a great group of panelists who will be providing some amazing insights on how brands can apply a proactive and scaled XR game plan to drive deeper fan engagement. Before we do official introductions, I'd like to play a short video on some of the experiences we will be discussing here today. As you can see, XR is having a profound effect on brands looking to deliver deeper fan engagement. Here with us to discuss XR impact is Jessica Owens, Pacific Region Field Marketing Director at Molson Coors, Craig Brown, XR Program Manager at Verizon, and Jason Yim, CEO at Trigger, the XR agency. With that, I'd like to give our panelists the opportunity to tell us a little bit about themselves. So Jessica, let's start with you.
Hey everybody, Jessica Owens. I've been with Molson Coors Beverage Company for 17 years. I started my career in Ohio and worked my way westward, and I can't go much farther than Hawaii, which is part of my territory. I've had experience with on-premise sales, off-premise sales, distributor network, and this roller coaster world of beer. There's one thing that's for sure is big trusted brands show up in the homes and in sporting events and now in AR. It's a pleasure to be here. I can't wait to share with you some of what we've done to have breakthrough consumer experiences. You saw a few of the snippets in the video, but I can't wait to talk more about it with you all today.
Likewise excited. I'm Craig Brown. I'm from Verizon. I'm in the 5G events activation division, XR program manager, where I oversee a lot of the experiences that we do for 5G live events in sports and entertainment. Some of the things up there that you saw, some other things that we'll talk about today. I'm doing this for a while. Fun fact about me is that I originally went to UCLA in 1999 to study VR. So I was a little ahead of the curve, but kept the torch alive when I got out, was doing 3D stuff, kept it going, and waited to come full circle. Here I am, so it's great to be here.
Hey, I'm Jason Yim. I'm the CEO of Trigger. We've been doing AR for a long time. So our first AR project was in 2009. It was webcam-based AR for District 9, the movie from Sony. Since then, we were Euphoria's showcase agency on mobile AR in 2012. We were first agency to create a Snap lens outside of Snap. We launched with Eric and the Eighth Wall for the first time as well. And since then, we've done about 250,000 hours of dev experience in the AR space. We focus on entertainment, sports, and e-commerce. But super excited to be here with everyone here, so can't wait.
Great. Well, we have a really amazing panel. So as we all know, COVID accelerated the adoption of XR for fan engagement, but is here to stay due to longer and deeper engagement than other digital media, conversion in shopping and commerce, and of course, new ways of approaching content. Can you discuss why and what use cases you're using XR for fan engagement and how you can have confidence it is working or will work? Let's start with you, Craig. Verizon sponsors and powers many big events. How are you using XR for fan engagement?
Well, yeah, we are heavily engaged in the venue experience. That is one of the biggest things we're focused on. For us, it's all about promoting 5G for these experiences and showing what 5G can do. So we always look for opportunities with partners to engage fans and show them experiences within the venue that they couldn't have otherwise. So a lot of things you saw up there, for example, with the AR and the fields where you can hold up your phone and see player stats. We've done things like a project for the NHL with Shot Tracker where you can, watch the puck going around the ice. If you hold up your phone, you see right there on the field, on the rink, you see the puck going around. You see the stats appearing right above the players, and all that happening in real time, which is a big leap because in broadcast traditionally you would see those kind of graphics on a broadcast stream, and obviously that's happening way behind time, not real time. And if you're at the stadium and you want to watch this live, you want to see those things happening instantaneously. You can't hold up your phone and see this view on your phone, and then it's lagging behind what you're seeing happening in the action in the stadium. So with the 5G, the 5G experience that we have wired up in these venues where you can have that really fast uplink through 5G from the capturing devices through the network back down to the device, and you can see these things happening in real time. So the big three things for us is the low latency, the massive concurrency that 5G provides, and the major bandwidth, right? So for something like massive concurrency, for example, at a venue where everybody needs to experience this thing together, right? We're interested in experiences where people will hold up all of their devices in the stadium and can experience something instantaneously together. They can interact on something happening together in the stadium at the same time. They could see and enjoy things happening in augmented reality in the stadium at the same time. So this is really where we're kind of living in what we're really interested in at Verizon. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really great. Jessica, I know live events have always been a critical component of your field marketing efforts, say at sporting events and concerts, but can you share how you've expanded these efforts digitally and how you're delivering it in XR?
Yeah, sure. So sometimes there's nothing better than watching your favorite sports team in a beer in hand, Coors Light preferably. And not always can everyone get to the sporting events, and particularly COVID when live events was shut down. But when you can, there's a disproportionate amount of people that can't get to the arenas or can't get to live venues. So how do we bring that experience to our consumers, all the while cracking open their Coors Light and enjoying some chill? So what we did was, from an alliance partner standpoint, for instance, the now Las Vegas Raiders, dare I say it, in NorCal, we created this augmented reality locker where everybody wants a sneak peek into the sports stadiums or the locker room. So we gave them this augmented reality of a locker, and there's hotspots on it. So you can look at team content or what the real locker room actually looked like all through your cell phone in this augmented world. So that's just one instance from an alliance standpoint where if you can't actually make it to the stadium or stand in the Raiders locker room, we're bringing it to you. And you can actually do that in your own living room or at the bar, but it's all brought to you by Coors Light. So we were sure that we took an alliance partner and we pulled it through the line to all ladder back to Coors Light in this chill platform. So keeping Las Vegas Raiders chill and the augmented reality. And then from a separate perspective, in California, we wanted to unite NorCal and SoCal. And there's one thing that unites us all, believe it or not, and that's the California bear. It shows up on the flag. We wear shirts with it on there. So we thought there's no better way than to unify the entire state during COVID and give consumers something to just talk about together. So we put the bear on packaging. And there's one thing that COVID did for us too, and it really catapulted the use of QR codes. So we put the QR code on our packaging, on our cans, so consumers innately know now it's not just to scan a menu at a bar. They know they can scan it and have this awesome Coors Light experience. So the California bear came to life. It crawled out of this portal, and then it did these things that I'd never seen before, whether it was cracking a baseball, over Angels Stadium for a home run, or it was grilling right next to you at your bar stool or in your home, knowing that COVID, we had a lot of these in-home occasions. And there's one thing about COVID is big trusted brands were certainly bought at the grocery stores. So for any of the beer drinkers out there, all those out of stocks, thank you for consuming our product. But we wanted to be sure you had this engagement too. So from a music perspective or sporting events, we're bringing it to life in your home right in front of you and giving it talk value, all brought to you by Coors Light.
Yeah, for the Raiders fans who are still in California, it's great that you gave them the opportunity to go without actually having to fly out there. Jason, as the agency responsible for creating these types of experiences, can you share why brands are leaning into XR and some of the metrics for success?
Yeah, I mean, I first want to mention it's actually changing, and it's going to be constantly changing what we're measuring and what the kind of key metrics are. But I think it's also changing because of all the adoption that's happening. So we're moving away from just the wow factor and novelty more towards utility and like real results. Because I think consumers are getting used to it. They're familiar with AR. They've seen it once already, twice already. Like you'll need to keep kind of increasing the quality level and the depth of content, I think. But the benefits from the brand side, the great thing is like I feel like you see benefits up and down the funnel. So at awareness stage, at consideration, and all the way through conversion. So awareness, for instance, on the Macy's parade, we had 250,000 unique views into those portals. The average visit time in these AR portals, both on Macy's and as well as the Coors projects, is between 3 and 4 minutes. And then we've done portals for the NBA where, on average, people stepped into 5 portals when they're giving many choices. So when you add up that kind of time for dwell time and engagement, that's a significant piece of time. And if we are not trying to compete with broadcast. We know people have a big screen, they're going to be watching this. The great thing about XR and AR is like you can find moments that are very kind of additive to that experience. You know, it could be you're behind the scenes, you know, watching Santana prepare to play the halftime show or something like that, and that's a intimate experience. And then you watch the halftime on the big screen. So, and then on the conversion, just want to mention that like with all this dwell time, with all this kind of captured audience, you want to make them do something. And we've had a lot of success with kind of sweepstakes or pushing to you know, purchase and things like that at really high percentage rates because you've captured their time for so long. So.
Yeah, I love how you mentioned how AR is reaching all of the marketing funnels. Jessica, how does your team stay on top of innovations in the XR space in order to grow your portfolio of XR experiences?
Yeah, I mean, we have this marketing vision where we want to move at the speed of culture, and we want to build brands that people want to hang out with. There is so much competition out there. You know, talk about SKU proliferation and craft options and hard seltzer options is how do we break through? And so we want to be sure that we deliver on a consumer experience. And so from an XR or AR standpoint, it's Coors Light's made to chill and keeping California chill and how we brought that to life from an AR perspective. And so we want to be sure that we're giving consumers something to talk about, talk value, and we continue to refresh it and build these platforms that consumers can share. Content is cash is king and content is right up there with it. Consumers love content and they want to share it with their friends. And so we delivered on what we believe some phenomenal experiences, whether it was the California Bear, the Raiders locker, the Seattle Kraken locker. We've even worked with Kirk Herbstreit. And so we want to deliver on this content where they want to share about it and they want to talk. So we hope that we're building brands that people are talking about and they are sharing through this AR portal. Brands on a retail floor, you can only do so much with it. And so we were sure to, once they chose our brand, we gave them something that they haven't seen before and truly broke through the clutter.
Great. And Craig, when supporting other teams looking to incorporate XR into their strategy, how do you help to guide them?
Well, you know, we're always looking out for new tech partners that can promote what we're trying to do at Verizon. You know, we're always looking for the next technology that can really benefit from 5G. So we provide a lot of resources for them when we bring them on board to learn about 5G, learn about edge compute, and see how their technology can benefit from 5G, and you know how we in turn can benefit from their technology very symbiotically. Edge compute is something that's very interesting, and a lot of people really, you know, a lot of vendors out there, a lot of startups are starting to really catch on to this because, you know, you have cloud computing, you have the ability now to take some of that, you know, work off of the device and put it on the cloud. At Verizon, we've invested a massive amount of money into edge computing. So we take that cloud, we move it much closer to the edge. We take that cloud computing resources, we move much closer to the edge, so you can start to offload these functions from your AR app or your AR, you know, technology, for example, things like maybe the, you know, the processing, the rendering onto the edge, and let the GPU slicing on the edge do it. So there's a lot of power in that. And a lot of startups and partners are starting to see that and really starting to come on board. And we're always, obviously from our point of view, we're trying to always showcase what is possible, why 5G is what we like to call the next industrial revolution, because it's really going to be that transformative. When you start to take that burden off the device and you put it on the edge, you know, obviously for XR it's huge. You know, we're very interested in that Verizon technologies that could showcase that on devices and at venues and projects and stadiums. So yeah, that's pretty much, that's how we do that.
Great. And Jason, as an agency, I'm sure you're always looking at new technologies and hardware. What criteria do you use to judge them?
Yeah, I mean, for us, like, we actually have a curve that we look at of like tech that's coming in that's, you know, super innovative, and it's kind of, we would call it a commoditization curve. So we know it's going to be super hard to use at the beginning, and you know, a lot of learning, but it's going to move into like the sweet spot where it's really going to prove its effectiveness, and we can actually create solutions around it. and then it'll slowly shift to kind of a commoditized part of the market where a lot more people can develop on it. And we are trying to find things that will sit in the sweet spot the longest for us, you know? And for us, part of identifying that is through our partners. So we've learned through all these years that, you know, we are an agency, but there are, you know, amazing companies out there creating software and hardware, and all of that kind of funnels down to us, and we have to figure out how to use it and apply it to brands. So.
Great. Well, the key to succeeding with XR and fan engagement is often trial and error to find the solution that will best suit your fans. And it's important to keep in mind that you should be adapting the tech to the audience, not the other way around. Can you all talk about how you landed on the right solution and any insights you can share with us from that process? Jessica, let's start with you. As a brand, how are you identifying the right type of XR experiences, and how are you evaluating these efforts?
We actually are trying to dabble into a few different spaces. I mentioned the Raiders or the Seattle Kraken, that's from an alliance perspective, or the California Bear, which really has no alliance but us Californians. And so we really want to test and learn, to scale. The locker became a little bit scalable from an alliance standpoint, where the locker room in the Raiders certainly looks different than the locker room in the Cleveland Browns. And so giving them that look, but the locker became scalable and became really interested from the consumer passion point, from a sports level perspective. We also knew that there's areas within the whole country that people don't always get to. So a little bit of the clip was the canoe ride from the user's point of view, and that was a tour of the beautiful Pacific Northwest. And if you haven't been to Oregon or Washington or even Alaska, we gave you that lens with this really fun commentary over it. And so we are trying to do different things with different consumers and different brands. I've talked a lot about Coors Light. We also do things with Blue Moon. So once in a blue moon, some augmented reality with Blue Moon is going to happen with you. We have different partnerships with Kirk Herbstreit, and then even Miller Lite. We leveraged a Mexican band, Banda MS, and you scan the Miller Lite can, and you are part of their concert in your own home, again, where we weren't able to get out and about, or some people still aren't. So we are testing and learning and understanding the dwell time that we are talking about is who landed on what the longest. The Pacific Northwest tour, people loved that immediately. It was fun, it was engaging. You got a glance at like 3 to 4 different states at once, and they talked about the dwell time of like 3 minutes or so. That's pretty amazing when you think about when you scroll on social media. I mean, you don't spend 3 minutes on something for very often anymore. And so we really knew we were onto something when we were engaging with them. And again, like, it was not an insert any brand here. We laddered it up from a Coors Light perspective of keeping the Pac Northwest chill with your Coors Light can in hand and taking this tour, or keeping California chill with the Bear. Blue Moon, there was different ladders up to the brand perspective, so that we made it very identifiable with Coors Light or Miller Lite or Blue Moon. So it wasn't just this experience where you can launch with any brand. You truly needed to have that brand with you, and then it brought differentiation too. So test and scaling all along the way, and we know if we want to move at the speed of culture, we're going to continue to optimize it and have the hot spots where it's truly video content that you see, or you flip your camera around and you have the face scan on, and that becomes a little bit like the Snapchats of the world, and it's all through given to you by our brand.
Yeah, I really loved the Pacific Northwest experience. I tried it out myself. Jason, what are the different XR platforms to launch on, and an important best practice that's most forgotten?
Sure. So if you look at the spectrum, there's social AR, which is kind of the snap lenses, Facebook, Instagram, on one end. Then there's web AR, which doesn't need an app, so everyone with a mobile browser can scan a QR code, go to a link, and it launches AR right there. And then there's the app side, download the app, a full experience, and then HMD eventually for the consumers. And I think the benefits to each are, with social AR, of course, there's a huge user base in each one that you can be very targeted towards and launch through there. But I feel like the experiences are snack size, right? They don't last very long within the social lens. And then you have web AR, and the great thing about web AR, again, is like you don't need to download an app, so you can actually launch it off of many pieces of collateral. You can launch it off all your print, all your social channels, all your digital channels. So we all love Eighth Wall and what it can do there. And then on the app side, it's more of we actually internally almost changed our process to work on the app side. It's much more a full-on product, and you're looking at a much longer, it's less of a campaign and more of something that you want to run for multiple years and keep growing the user base on. Or adding an AR kind of module or capability into an app that you already have, that already has users, and you can kind of enhance that. And then eventually HMD, yeah.
Yeah, the snack size thing, especially, like we just came out of the Snap discussion, they're saying tech, toy, and eventually ubiquitous, and it's at that toy stage right now that we're just starting to come out of that toy stage, I think. And, we really, at Verizon, we're really trying to bolster that because we really believe that once you do that, all these things you can do with 5G to bolster these experiences and take that burden off of the devices, maybe we'll get to wearables a little quicker.
And you don't have to pick just one. So like, the great thing about AR content is you can kind of repurpose it across all those different channels, and they kind of evolve and mature over those channels as well. So you can have some of the 3D content as lenses. You can push out to web AR, but that drives traffic to download a larger app, and so on and so forth. So, yeah.
Great. Is there a best practice that you would like to share?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of best practices that I think are overlooked. One, what the panelists have been talking about today is scaling that solution. If you're starting with this kind of learning approach, once you find something that works, like build that out into something bigger that you can replicate across all your brands or all your products. And then the other one is actually deployment. So as an agency, of course, we spend a lot of time trying to make and craft the best experience possible, but someone has to launch it and get it out into the world. We're lucky to work with these partners here that, they've taken like web AR deployment to a whole different level. So we have like big billboards in Vegas. We're on the TV spots with the Macy's parade at the same time, all driving traffic to the AR experience.
Great. And Craig, from a UX perspective, what is the key to an effective XR experience?
Throw things at the wall and see what sticks. Yeah, so coming from a UX background myself, that's the sweet spot for me. It's a tricky formula, with AR. The testing can be a little bit tricky sometimes. Getting the data back can be tricky, but it's more of just working with the user, trying to put some feelers out there with the experiences that we launch, and getting that data back. At Verizon, we have all these large events that we sponsor, and the data that we get back from how people interact with these experiences is invaluable and huge, a lot of data. We just try to make it as seamless and as fluid and invisible almost as possible. We want to get to the point where you can walk into a stadium, for example, and people will just have it'll geodetect that they're in that area, and it'll start to feed content right to their phone automatically. Things like wayfinding, and we're looking into all kinds of different things we could do with NFTs, like everybody, right? And being able to have collectibles and souvenirs, be able to walk around the stadium, have different experiences, be in the stadium during the game in the seats and watching, just holding up your phone, and automatically it'll cue you for whatever you need to see at that moment. All these kind of things, from a UX standpoint, we really feel that the seamlessness that 5G and edge compute can bring to that is invaluable, because it really starts to get us beyond where we just have these disjointed, sort of gimmicky apps, one-offs on our phones that you have to launch this, you have to launch that, now I don't know where this is, now I have to go over there, to much more contextualized, much more intelligent, seamless XR experiences at live events.
Yeah, we can't wait to really embrace that more than maybe we already have or dabbled into it. So for instance, we have a partnership with the San Francisco Giants, and we put the augmented bear on their big screen, and it was a PSA of, hey, scan the QR code and bring the California chill bear right to your seat next to you. And we would love just to be able to push out, and we use those big live platforms for the captive audience to help message them to and give them experience while batters were warming up or whatever the case might be, find the appropriate time. So
Yeah.
consumers are hungry for it. They want it. I mean, you guys all probably have your phone in your hand right now, right? I mean, so these things are happening all the time. It's an extension of us. And how do we give you guys the experience you want and that content you're looking for on that downtime?
Right.
Yeah, that's really great insight. Jessica, what are some of the challenges you've overcome when trying to integrate XR into your strategy?
Well, we want to move at the speed of culture, but we have a lot of key stakeholders. And for everybody, gosh, I mean, remember the flip phone, remember the iPhone, remember, texting? I mean, to be able to communicate what this is going to do to break through with our consumers, that's step one, is educating the system on what it is and what we're doing. And then we also want to leverage working dollars. We talked about like how this becomes really important and critical to bring to life on different platforms, and media became that component for us. We buy media. Our brands show up in different places, but how does that media dollar work harder for us for the consumer engagement piece that we're looking for and building? So for instance, the Pacific Northwest, the tour, we put media behind it, and like overnight you saw thousands of people engaging versus just showing a Coors Light can to somebody. We had the link on there that launched the AR portal, and bam, you're a part of it. So when we think about goals and how we're integrating it into our plans and our strategies, we know that we're onto something, and the test and scale becomes pretty critical for how we think about what worked, what's the media dollars doing, and how do we pull it through the line. So many different goals, many different measurements, and we think we're setting benchmarks ourselves. We want to continue to beat those benchmarks every month, every week when we refresh the content. We hope that if you were to scan your Coors Light can today and you saw the California Bear grilling in front of you, that when you scan it again in a week from now or a month from now, you're having a whole different experience. That was not lost on us to be sure that it was refreshed. So that's part of our goals and part of our metrics, that they're always coming back for more, so that we're delivering on that content and that fan or that Coors Light can experience for you.
Great. And Craig, I think you spoke a little bit on how to drive users to experiences. What best practices for deployment would you recommend?
Well, for us, we're much more focused on what we bring to the table with the platform that we provide, and we let the vendors, focus on what is the best method of deployment and rollout of some of these experiences. But generally, from the projects that I've been involved with, it's a matter of a phased rollout. Basically, you usually start with something, just trying to target that core experience to begin with. Try to get that right. Understand what that core experience is, and put that out there. Make sure that you have that nailed down and solid first, and then build from there. So, we were talking about the scaled approach and how you put it out there and you grow based on that. You grow a platform, you grow across different platforms and different channels. And we're working on a lot of projects where we have that too. They sort of start out small, they grow organically from there. That's generally the method that we follow. We also, we have our targets for what we're trying to achieve in the venue as well as out of the venue with 5G and bring to some of these experiences. So that guides a lot of what we do. That informs what we're trying to do. A big thing for us now, for example, is now that we've really focused on the venue with things like our multi-view experience in the stadium and our different holographic experiences in the stadium. We're starting to experiment a lot with digital twins now, and trying to bring the physical audience and the virtual audience at home and the physical audience more together, and actually possibly interacting with each other in very interesting, creative ways. All of these kind of use cases, if you think about that next level of communication, that future of communication where XR could really bring people together, that's where we want to hear from people. That's what we're really interested in. Companies that are interested in massive communication in XR, massive interaction in XR in real time, telepresence, but remotely, not necessarily having to be at home because you're on the 5G network, you can do it anywhere. So, those are the things we're interested in, and the projects we've promoted have sort of, they've followed that principle of that core experience first, trying to really nail down what that 5G story is that we're trying to tell. and get that really understood well, get that out in front of people and grow it from there.
Great. And Jason, what best practices for deployment would you recommend as the agency behind most of this?
Oh, giant billboards in Vegas. That's awesome. Bigger the better. Definitely, yeah, support with media spend. There's actually a lot of interesting nuances at retail too that I think early on we didn't realize. So there's been projects where, for instance, there's multiple QR codes that the consumer actually runs into. One of them is ours, but we didn't know that there are going to be 3 others on the display. So that's a bit confusing for the consumer. So how do we communicate what each our QR code does compared to everyone else's, and how can that be kind of planned better? We've even had one execution where, and we weren't involved in the deployment part, but by the time we found out, they had put the QR code really high. It was 8 feet up above the display. I don't know who's tall enough to actually scan it. So it was little things like that. You kind of forget about it because you're kind of all in the digital world, but for it to be effective, it has to be thought through all the way. So.
Yeah, definitely. I think if users need to point their phone in an odd direction, it will less likely scan when they're trying to scan the QR code, so that's really great advice. As we look to the future, what new ways do you think XR will play a role in shaping the way customers engage fans? Any other predictions for XR, short or long term? Let's start with you, Jason. Is there any technology that you're working on now that hasn't been seen yet?
There's stuff. This last year we did a lot of volumetric capture, so bringing athletes in full 360 into a fan's room, onto a soccer pitch, teaching you how to take a free kick and stuff like that. Stuff that's coming up. We were part of the Lightship program that was announced this morning with Niantic, so we're one of the early partners there. So we're really excited about bringing in all the gamification technology to our brand partners. There's a lot that's going to enable for us on a planet scale sort of play, so we're excited about that. And then related to that is there's a lot of AI coming on board. So it's not only the camera being able to understand what it's looking at, which is what Niantic's bringing to the table. It knows the ground versus the trees versus the sky, and you can put different things in those areas. But AI can start to help bring that content to life. So you can have a character that instead of just says the same thing over and over again, it can be tied into a full conversation engine, and it can actually react to what you're saying and feel alive, as well as pull in data from all these other sources. So we're really excited about that. When AR, again, isn't just the same thing over and over and over, but it's the start, and then it just evolves from that point. So.
And Craig, I know you're excited about the future of wearable technology to enhance the XR experience. Can you expand on this?
Well, yeah. So that's the holy grail, so to speak. That's where we want to get to. We're all waiting for the day that the wearables come down in form factor and become something very small and slick. And to date, we've been a little bit disappointed. We've got some that are very bulky and cook your head, and then we've got others that are looking slick, but they're just 2D graphics overlaid in your view, similar to Google Glasses was in the past. And we are on the cusp now of people really leveraging mobile edge compute and technologies like edge computing and using Amazon wavelength to bring that form factor down, to take that load off of the device. And once that happens, we're talking about a truly transformative era, right, for this technology, because once that device doesn't have to do that work anymore, then, well, that form factor can come down, right? So we're looking forward to a future of finally getting past this, gimmicky, toy-like, clunky phase of XR, because the devices can't handle it, because the ergonomics aren't there, the usability, the human-machine interaction isn't quite there yet. That's just seamless now. It's transparent, and you're just focusing on the experience. You just are enveloped, enjoying the experience without thinking about your technology, without thinking about your wearable. And we really we know that edge compute is going to play a huge part in that.
Great. And Jessica, how do you see your goals and campaigns changing or optimizing for the future?
Yeah, I think it's optimizing. I think we want to be sure that we deliver on a Coors Light brand message and a Blue Moon brand message, and that augmented reality and beer is fun. That, you know, it's a part of your everyday life, and you know, you think about big beer occasions.
Beer is just fun by itself.
Beer is just fun, and so we want to be sure that we optimize what we deliver on. And so when you have the Miller Lite can in your hand or Coors Light, you start to think like, oh, this QR code, I'm scanning it. And we just want to become part of your beer drinking days and world and times and occasions, and deliver on why you love your Coors Light or your Blue Moon. And I think that's what we're trying to do by means of this augmented reality, and how on pieces of point of sale that you see in the grocery stores, the QR code's not very high, it's eye level, and consumers know they're grabbing their case of Miller Lite or Coors Light and scanning that QR code because they know they have something to look forward to. So we're going to optimize how we engage with our consumers and how we recruit our consumers. And we know we're all here from a recruit standpoint of, this younger generation coming up has so much more at their fingertips, literally and figuratively, than we ever have. And so we know that we have brand loyalists out there, and we have a recruit target. And if we are going to recruit new drinkers 21 years of age and then up into our brand and our portfolio of brands, we need to deliver on something that they're hungry for and the content that they want, and a brand that they hold as a badge of honor too. So we will optimize, we'll take a look at it, we will listen to those 21, 22, 23-year-olds and what they're doing to be sure that if they choose a beer, it's ours.
Great. And I'd really love to hear from each of you what your favorite fan experience that you guys have worked on is, and if you can just share some details on it. Jason, we can start with you.
I mean, there's too many to count.
Right?
Everything with these people on this panel.
It's like picking your favorite child.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Thank you. Cheers.
I think all of them, we try to create differentiation. The Pac Northwest, you don't bring the California Bear up there. You're taking a canoe ride or a kayak ride through the beauty of the Pac Northwest. And in California, it was all about the Bear, and Raiders, it was all about the new stadium, Allegiant Stadium, and Seattle Kraken or Kirk Herbstreit. And so we tried to be sure that when we brought something to life, we loved it just as much as the augmented reality we built before that. So they were all in the same even playing field. We loved them all, and they all had their own special box.
I would have to say, I know it's not, it's a little bit like VR, VR, bad VR, what's that now? That's going, I still think it's got a huge future. I think that, I still really, really believe in the convergence of VR and AR to form true XR. I think that as those wearables come down in form factor, somebody's going to eventually do it. Somebody's going to make those glasses that go opaque to become VR and transparent to be AR, right? Polarized lenses that will polarize automatically, right? They're going to be indecipherable eventually. It's going to be the same thing. And a while back, we did something for Super Bowl. We had a virtual VIP booth. It was like one of those executive VIP booths at the stadium where you could be in there in VR, and it had a bar and everything, and you walk down to the front and you sit down, and there's this view in super high resolution 180 stereoscopic 180 video of the game, and it was live, and we were watching Super Bowl like that in VR. And it was a demo at the time because this was a couple years ago. It wasn't ready for the technology, wasn't ready for prime time. The connections we had to set up weren't, the technology we were using wasn't public yet. So we did it as a closed demo for partner executives and our own executives. But the effect was unbelievable. I mean, I don't think people truly appreciate yet the transformative power of stereoscopic 360 or 180 video. And when it's in super high quality, crisp resolution, you feel like you're there. You don't feel like you're looking at a video anymore, but in a headset, not in a phone. And so down there, the game was over, and they dropped the confetti, and I could reach out and touch it. I literally felt like I was going to fall off the balcony down into the stadium. It was insane. And that was by far my favorite one. And I think we're going to get back there. I think we're going to get there publicly. in the not too distant future.
Great. Well, I would just like to, if you guys could give one key takeaway each that you would like everyone in this room to walk away from, I think everyone here would enjoy that. So Jessica, let's start with you.
Gosh, with my 17 years of beer experience, I would say now more than ever, it's about breakthrough, and it's about, being where consumers want to be and building brands that they want to continue to gravitate towards. And so continue to find those cutting edge moments and plans and push your teams. I really pushed my team to deliver on something so powerful, and that everything from above the line and below the line connected for brand consistency, and so it showed up in different ways. And I would say think towards the future, remain loyal from a traditional marketing standpoint, but have those moments of breakthrough, be bold and decisive, and I promise it will pay off.
Do we have a QA after the Q&A still coming?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I was going to do a raise your hands kind of thing, but I mean, for me, it's I'm working on this a lot at Verizon and pushing through a lot of projects that are taking advantage of the power that 5G has to offer. So my key takeaway for everybody is come talk to me about 5G and edge compute. And if you have something in mind that you think would run wonderfully on that, a very great use case for this, I'd love to hear it.
For me, I mean, just walking around the conference, I mean, you can see the amount of, the industry's changing, everything's speeding up, it's accelerating, it's growing. Start now, you have to learn and just build upon all your learnings, because it's just going to keep changing and keep growing, so.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, I think we now have time for some Q&A. So if anybody has any questions, you can line up at the mic back there, I believe.
If you guys don't talk into the mic, they can't hear you on the virtual casting, so thank you.
Hi, I'm Tom Abraham, and I went to the University of Denver, actually. And I had two roommates. One was Jamie Uline from Schlitz, and the other one was Adolphus Busch. And I never drank their beer or your beer. My question to you is that how do you attract young individuals with some sense of value other than drinking beer? Because if your company is just strictly about gaining new people that are interested in drinking, but what are you telling them about your company, about your values, about what you can offer as a company other than just drinking your beer?
Yeah. So first off, we always want anyone to consume our products and any other alcohol products responsibly. That's first and foremost. So if you choose to drink an alcohol, and we hope it's in our portfolio, we want you to do responsibly. But we also stand for things like sustainability. Coors, the Coors family, they're innovators, and they continue to do that. And so the aluminum can, the recyclable can, Bill Coors himself went around and collected cans from the bars in order to recycle them. So sustainability and reducing our carbon footprint is a major initiative of the Coors family and obviously Molson Coors. We want to be sure we give back to the communities. One major platform that we worked off of from the West was the wildfires that happen. It's not if anymore, it's when they happen. And so we built a Coors banquet program that gave back to the affected victims. And we work with the Wildland Firefighters organization to be sure that those families that were affected by the fires were taken care of. So we have so many initiatives beyond just have a beer that might fall into your morals, your value, your community connection, to be sure that it's not just about this augmented reality and recruiting young consumers. It's about meaningful marketing. And so those are just a few examples that we have done from the West. And then, of course, there's other initiatives with beach cleanup. I think that becomes really critical, in particular our beaches out here. And I know they do that on the East Coast as well. So, recycling, sustainability, and then community connection becomes really critical and important for us too, cause marketing.
And I think it's super relevant to the target audience too. You can't just, like you said, you can't just sell product. The younger consumers are evaluating each company, each product that they're buying in many different ways, right? They want it to stand for something besides, just tasting good or fun or whatever.
Yeah, and just one more build on that is we're very proud of the fact that other major brands also come to us to partner. So we know we're doing something well. So Brixton, a Southern California-based clothing company, they partnered with us with the Coors Banquet and Protect Our West with the Wildland Firefighters. So again, we knew that there was something there when we get calls too to be a part of a platform that we've built in order to give back to community, to give consumers a reason to believe in our products and pick up our brands.
Thanks, y'all, for the talk. It's been very interesting. I'm curious, part of what you have said was important, obviously, is collecting data of some kind on these experiences and how people interact with them. And I'm curious if y'all have, any of you, created experiences that had some level of interactivity through either proximity or tapping the screen or what have you, and if you have any data on whether or not that is significantly more effective in terms of engaging people or getting a certain outcome in terms of behavior.
So when you say proximity interactive with a certain amount of proximity, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, obviously there are lots of different ways to trigger animations or behavior in an AR experience. And so, I mean, be it proximity or just interacting with something on the screen, do you find that that is better in terms of increasing engagement or getting people to act out in a certain way?
I mean, yeah, I think it's a balance that you have to play, right? Like, definitely just playing animation is not enough. Like, you want some interaction on top of that, but it gets to a certain point where if the UX or the UI is not designed well and the interaction gets too complicated and convoluted, then you start losing people as well. So it's just balancing between those two.
I mean, for me, the question's a little broad because it's, there's all kinds of things you can do triggered by proximity, and some of those things will be more effective, more powerful than others. So there's no real silver bullet there, I guess. It's the same situation as anything else. You have to test it out, maybe do some different iterations, maybe some A/B testing, get back the user-focused studies, the data, and see what people are saying about the different ways you're approaching it.
But I think that the positive news is, even from the stats that we're talking about, like, the consumers want to engage. You want to give them something to do. It's not like having a video and it's a lean back, I just want to sit back and watch this thing. Once they fire up AR, you have them at a point where they would want to explore more. Yeah.
I would say really don't just focus on proximity, non-proximity interactions. Focus on why you're doing it. You should always have that crux philosophy, that crux experience that you're trying to achieve, the reason for being, and then however you achieve that, if proximity detection and triggering is the best way to go about, there's all kinds of very powerful things you could do with that, right? Depends on what it is. If you have some kind of intelligent assistant that's interacting with you right there, that's much more powerful than you walk down the street and there's a jack in the box and it pops open because you walked close to it, So it's something that has a reason for being. It's always about having a reason for being. What it is.
Thank you. This is a question for Craig. So you spoke very highly about the 5G and the edge computing, and it sounds like you're putting those antennas inside the stadium to make sure it's a seamless experience. Verizon phone here, I love it. Got the 5G. When do you think that seamless is going to hit, like on an American scale, that I can go from city to city and I don't have to be in that stadium that you pimped out with all the extra stuff?
Trying to draw me out on coverage, isn't it?
Yeah. But I love it. I mean, but when is that going to happen? Because my team would love to not just pitch you an experience that
I have to be very careful about what I say.
Okay.
So yeah, we started out by deploying ultra-wideband. We really started there, right? So we started by lighting up upwards of 100 or more cities. I'm not sure exactly what the number is now, Verizon, forgive me, of cities that are really lit up in city centers and very densely populated areas with ultra-wideband. We were the first out of the gate with ultra-wideband, and it was like, it's lightning fast, but that's small radios, and it has a shorter distance that it covers, so maybe it's like 500 meters, something like that, or I think so. Don't draw me out on that. Don't quote me on that. So the problem with that is it's direct line of sight. It's a shorter distance of coverage, and you have to have a lot more of the radios covering the area. then we have our nationwide 5G, which is basically piggybacking off of the existing 4G network. I'm not exactly sure the specifics, I'm not a network engineer, but it's not as fast as ultra wideband, right? Because it's not using millimeter wavelength. Now we've just finished our auction with the C-band spectrum, so that's going to start to bring us now more in closer territory between the best of the millimeter wavelength and the 4G nationwide, you know, with the distance and power, right? So more distance and stronger signal, more data throughput. We're rolling that out. I can't say exactly when that's going to be and how seamless that coverage is going to be across the nation. But that's part of the strategy, right, is to start having that a lot more coverage with much more powerful 5G. That's why we did the C-band spectrum auction. So I don't know if that helps answer your question a little bit, but
I mean, it does. My team works with brands like his, and we can't do some of the ideas that we come up with because we're limited by using a web-based one, putting it inside the app. Because when we give examples to them, stuff looks really, really good, but it's localized.
yeah.
And so it's
Yeah. They just finished that auction too, so I don't think even like we've gotten the message down, the projections from the top yet of exactly when they think that rollout's going to be completed by. I would have to refer you back to the website. But I mean, obviously for us, that's why we started with areas with high density of people, right? So airports, city centers, stadiums, and venues, because there's so many kind of use cases within there that benefit from this mobile connection that people can roam all around and have this super fast, super powerful connection, especially with XR, which is my division. I mean, Verizon's not just doing XR for 5G. They're interested in all kinds of technical verticals for, there's XR, which is where I live. There's, AI, the self-driving vehicles, drones, computer vision. I mean, it goes on and on, all this stuff that benefits from that incredibly fast, very powerful mobile connection when people are able to roam and have that on their device. So we start with venues. We're working our way out from venues and airports and all these densely populated areas. And yes, when that coverage is more ubiquitous, then you start to see some of the thinking about more of the kind of applications you're talking about where it's free roaming across anywhere, right? When that is
Great, and I think we have time for just one or two more questions. Okay, so you can go ahead.
Awesome. So we work with a lot of clients that already have large consumer bases. Lots of people already like their product. And sometimes it does take time for consumers to buy into augmented reality, especially web-based AR, as it's growing bigger. So how do you convince a client that there is an ROI on something like web AR when it might take a little bit of time for their clients to actually buy into using these types of technologies?
I mean, from the agency side, I think like we just have to prove in our track record that we have created results in the past, and of course you can look at other articles and other stats that are happening in the industry that are showing the performance of AR and use that as part of your why messaging. Yeah.
Great.
I was just going to build from an ROI perspective. I think that's where the scale comes in. And I think a lot of us want to be innovators and want to be first movers and then remain consistent and be in the first spot. And so, that's kind of what we did from a beer perspective from the West Coast. And we knew that if we were going to continue putting our marketing dollars against this, that we were going to scale it, and we were going to be sure that the working dollars we had out there laddered up to the same program so that it wasn't just a one-off that would not have the right ROI or something that we're looking for too. So again, depending on what your goals are, whether it's consumer engagement, it's truly test and learn, you can kind of...
It depends on what you're trying to do.
Yeah, what you're trying to accomplish.
What your application is, what your idea is, what you're doing for that client. For example, if they're a retail client, how do you convince them that AR is the way to go? Well, you have to do something that can only be done in AR. That's the point. Don't do something that can be done in 2D and it's just using AR as a gimmick.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen that a million times in my career, and it's just tired. It's so tired. AR has specific things that it's great at. Stick to them.
Yeah, in AR, I mean, you can be even, once you have and launch the AR, it can still be engaging. It in of itself is engaging, and then you can tap the screen for other options or change the filter, and so you can figure out again, like, where's the dwell time, what's happening, and then lean into where your consumer base really likes playing, if you will.
Also, like to be honest, it can also come down to individuals on the client side. Like, you have to be lucky enough to find an innovator on the other side, because like the client has a choice between they can spend the exact same amount of money and buy a YouTube ad, you know, and it's fire and forget and it gets X number of results, or it could be something that they have to roll up their sleeves and really innovate with us and work through that. So you have to find a partner on that side that's part of their DNA as well. So and are energized by that. So, but don't pick these ones. Thanks.
Great, and then last question.
Cool. Hopefully a quick question here. I'm curious what research and testing you do to make sure you have a successful AR or VR experience.
What I mean for us is we've created our own benchmarks and metrics. Everything we do has an after-action review, and we intend on a positive ROI. And so we create those metrics all along the way in terms of point of sale that's ordered, or engagement time and dwell time. And so, you know, it's really kind of this moving target, if you will, because once you hit a certain benchmark, you're like, great, I want to beat that. I mean, I hope we all have a very competitive spirit. And so we've set something that's more of a stretch goal. And then we are ensured to, if we're going to reinvest in something like it, that we have to perform better in an all hands on deck type scenario of like, this is our one big thing that we're going to get behind. We know that there's legs to it and it's going to work. And so we kind of create benchmarks that way. And there's a whole full-blown scorecard and after action review. If something's not working, great, you tried it. There's no such thing as failing and testing and learning. You're like, we have tried that. We're not going to move forward with it. And so you just kind of begin to adapt and build a scorecard like that. And
then on the product development side, we'll start with user surveys and user studies, and even get to, and we've done 30 plus XR prototypes for Lego for kid testing. I mean, you really have to, you know, build a vertical slice of the experience, get it into a consumer's hands, and just see how they play with it, how they use it, and learn a lot from that. So,
fail fast and fail often, right? Don't wait too long. Don't try to polish it to the nth degree before you put it in front of some users for testing. You want to get that dirty iteration in front of them as quickly as you can. Let them start playing with it. Start getting that information. Start getting that feedback. I mean, that's what. It's pretty standard now with, you know, we got the prototyping tools that you have out there. It's a little bit trickier in AR and VR though, obviously, because prototyping that stuff is not easy now. It still hasn't been a really successful prototyping tool on the market for these types of things, but there's still ways to do it. There's still ways to put that idea in front of the end user as quickly as you can and start getting that feedback and iterating on it.
Yeah, well, thank you, everyone, and thank you, Jason, Jessica, and Craig, for joining me here.